Right now, someone you know is being buried, and in less than an hour, two angels will visit them, not to comfort them, to question them. What happens in the next 7 days will determine what happens to that soul for the rest of eternity, and almost nobody talks about it. You will die. That's not a threat. That's a fact. And when you do, your soul doesn't just disappear into nothing. It enters a stage the Quran calls Barzakh, a barrier, a waiting room between this world and the next. But here's what almost nobody prepares for. The first 7 days after death are not silent. They are not empty. They are, according to Islamic teaching, some of the most intense moments a soul will ever experience. Let's start with the moment of death itself. As the soul leaves the body, it doesn't just slip away quietly. Islamic tradition describes angels arriving to extract the soul, and how that extraction feels depends entirely on how that person lived. For a believer who lived righteously, the soul is said to leave the body as smoothly as a drop of water sliding off a leaf. But for someone who lived in heedlessness, in sin, in denial, the process is described very differently. Painful, resistant, like pulling something out that doesn't want to leave. And that's just the first few seconds. Once the soul departs, something remarkable happens. It's said to be wrapped and carried upward through the heavens so it can be presented before Allah. Every gate it passes, angels ask the same question: who is this soul? And the answer determines whether the gates open or stay firmly shut. But here's where it gets personal. Because after this brief ascension, the soul is returned, back to the earth, back to the body, back to the grave. This is where the real test begins. The body is lowered into the ground. The mourners walk away. The footsteps fade into silence. And that silence is not empty. Because in Islamic teaching, that is the exact moment two angels arrive, Munkar and Nakir. Their appearance alone is described as terrifying, not because they're evil, but because they represent something no human being can manipulate, negotiate with, or charm: pure accountability. They ask 3 questions. Who is your Lord? What is your religion? Who is this man who was sent to you? Simple questions, but the answer isn't about memorization. It's not a test you can cram for the night before. The answer comes from how you actually lived. A person who spent their life connected to truth answers instantly, calmly, without fear. But a person who spent their life in denial, distraction, or arrogance freezes, stutters, cannot answer. And that moment of silence is described as one of the most terrifying moments a soul will ever face. Now, here's something most people don't realize. This isn't a one-time event that happens and then it's over. What follows next shapes the entire first week, because depending on how those questions are answered, the grave itself is said to transform. For the believer, it expands, becomes spacious, peaceful, filled with light. A window is opened toward paradise, and the soul is shown, even now, a preview of what's waiting for them. Comfort arrives in the form of a being described as beautiful, fragrant, dressed in radiant clothing, representing the good deeds that person sent forward in life. But for the one who failed the test, the grave is described as tightening, compressing, crushing, so intensely that some descriptions liken it to bones interlocking under pressure. Instead of comfort, a dark, foul-smelling figure appears, representing sins, bad deeds, wasted time. And instead of a window to paradise, a window opens toward the fire, so the soul can see in real time exactly what awaits. This is not a punishment that starts later. It begins immediately, within hours. Now let's talk about the 7 days specifically, because this number isn't random. Islamic scholars have long noted the soul's connection to the physical world doesn't cut off instantly. There's a transitional period where the soul is believed to still have some awareness of the world it left behind, able to sense, in some interpretations, the prayers made for it, the charity given in its name, the sadness or relief of those left behind. This is why the first days after death carry so much weight in Islamic practice. Family and community are encouraged to pray for the deceased, give charity on their behalf, and avoid excessive mourning that could distress the soul. Not out of superstition, but because these actions are believed to directly ease or intensify what the soul is experiencing during this exact window. Think about that for a second. Every prayer made in those first 7 days isn't just a tradition. It might be reaching someone. It might be helping them in a moment they cannot help themselves. But here's the twist almost nobody talks about. This window matters just as much for you right now, while you're alive. Because the first 7 days after death aren't determined in those 7 days. They're determined by every single day that came before them. Every prayer you skipped or completed. Every relationship you nurtured or broke. Every moment of kindness or cruelty. Every night you chose to sleep peacefully while someone else's suffering never crossed your mind. All of it is being recorded, silently, continuously. And one day, a day you don't get to choose, it all gets opened at once. That's the terrifying part, and also the empowering part. Because Barzakh isn't designed to scare you into paralysis. It's designed to wake you up, to remind you that death isn't the finish line where everything ends. It's the checkpoint where everything gets revealed. The soul doesn't get a second chance to redo those 7 days. It only gets to experience the results of what was already done. So here's the real question this video is actually asking. Not what happens after death, but what are you doing right now that will determine what happens after death? Because somewhere, right now, someone is in their first 7 days of Barzakh. They can't take back a single missed prayer. They can't call up a friend they hurt and apologize. They can't donate the money they were planning to give someday. Someday already happened. It's over for them. But for you, reading this, watching this, sitting here right now, someday hasn't happened yet. You still have time to be the version of yourself that walks into that grave with light instead of darkness. You still have time to make those 7 days peaceful instead of terrifying. You still have time to become the kind of soul that angels don't need to intimidate into an answer, because the truth already lives in your heart. The clock is running. You just can't hear it ticking. If this video made you pause and think, even for a moment, that's exactly why this channel exists. Creating content like this takes time, research, and care, and if you'd like to support that effort, you can join the channel as a member using the button below. Or if you'd prefer to support just once, you can buy me a coffee through the link in the description. Every bit of support helps keep this content going.